All right, so today we're going to be taking a deep dive into the subtle art of not giving a feck.
Yeah, by Mark Manson.
This book, like, blew up, right?
Yeah.
It seems like everybody was talking about it.
Yeah, millions of copies.
And it's not really your typical self-help book, right? It's more like...
It's definitely not the like feel-good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more like a kick in the pants
Yeah.
to get you thinking about what really matters.
So we're going to be trying to, like, pull out some of the stuff from this book
Yeah.
and maybe see how it can apply to, like, your life as a listener and stuff like that.
It's fascinating how Manson just like flips the whole self-help script, right? Instead of chasing this like impossible ideal of constant happiness, it's like, no, we need to
Be real.
get real about our limitations and like choose what we care about.
Okay, so choosing your facts wisely. I like it, but I'm also kind of confused. How do you actually do that?
Think of it this way. You have limited energy, limited time, limited emotional bandwidth. You can't possibly care deeply about everything, right?
Right.
Manson uses the example of Charles Bukowski, the writer.
Okay.
And Bukowski, you know, he didn't waste energy trying to fit in or please everybody.
Yeah.
He just like embraced his rough edges, you know, focused on his writing.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what led to his success.
So it's not about being, like, cold.
Right.
Or, like, not caring about anything.
It's not about being a jerk.
It's about being strategic.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, almost like making an investment with your emotions. And then this leads to, I think, one of the most interesting parts of the book, which is, like, happiness through solving problems, which most self-help books are like, avoid problems at all costs.
Right. Run away.
But he's saying, no, you find happiness by solving the right problem.
The right problems.
Okay, so that's like a pretty big, like, mental shift, right?
Yeah.
How do you even figure out which problems are the right ones to be solving?
It's so easy to feel overwhelmed by all the things life throws at us.
Totally.
So he talks a lot about this idea of like defining your values.
Okay.
What truly matters to you? What are those like non-negotiable principles that
guide you?
Guide you, yeah.
Okay.
And once you have a solid grasp on your values, it's like having this filter for all these problems.
Yeah.
Right. And then you can start to see, okay, which ones are actually worth my energy and which ones are just like distractions, noise.
It's like picking your battles, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
But I think a lot of us, and I know I do this too, we kind of get in this mindset of like blaming things on external factors when things go wrong.
It's easier
than looking at ourselves.
Yeah. And like how we contributed to it potentially.
And that's where this idea of radical responsibility comes in.
Okay.
And I know radical, that might sound kind of intense, but bear with me for a second.
He's not saying it's your fault when bad things happen in your life, right? But he's saying that taking responsibility for your reactions and choices, even in like really tough situations, is actually really empowering.
Can you give me an example of that?
He uses William James, the father of American psychology.
Okay.
And James struggled with depression and a real lack of purpose in his life.
Yeah.
And he eventually realized that just waiting for things to change externally wasn't working.
Right.
So he made a choice.
Okay.
A very deliberate choice to take ownership of his thoughts, his actions.
Yeah.
And that shift in perspective, that shift in responsibility really helped him turn his life around.
So instead of being like, why is this happening to me?
Yeah.
It's more like, okay, this is happening. What can I do about it?
Exactly.
That's a big difference.
It's a subtle shift, but it makes a huge difference.
It's like you're not just a victim of circumstance.
Right. You have agency.
You have some control, even if it's just how you react to it.
Even if it's just your attitude, your mindset.
That really resonates with me.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get caught up in that blame game. But I think if you can shift your focus to what you can control.
Yeah.
That's where you can really...
That's where the power is.
Yeah.
And that leads to another really interesting point that Manson makes.
Okay.
Which is the importance of being comfortable with uncertainty. Yeah. Right, so we often try to cling to certainty, like we want all the answers. Right. We want to know what's going to happen next.
Makes us feel safe.
Yeah.
And secure.
But Manson actually argues that this really limits our growth.
So being uncertain is a good thing.
He actually calls it Manson's law of avoidance.
Ooh, fancy.
Which is, the more something threatens our identity, the more likely we are to avoid it. We avoid uncertainty to protect our egos.
Even if it means staying stuck.
Even if it means staying stuck, right?
So to actually grow, you need to be okay with not knowing.
You need to be okay with being wrong sometimes.
With being wrong.
Yeah.
Being wrong can be a good thing.
Okay, so we've talked about, like, choosing what we care about, taking responsibility, and being okay with, like, not knowing everything.
Embracing the uncertainty.
Where does the not giving a feck actually come into play?
I mean, that's the title of the book, right?
Exactly.
So we got to address that. So it's not about just, like, not caring about anything.
Right.
It's about recognizing that we have, like, a limited amount of energy.
Right.
Right? Our energy is precious, and we should be directing it towards the things that actually matter.
The things we give a feck about.
The things that we choose to give a feck about.
Yeah, I like that.
Right. The things that align with our values and that help us grow as people.
So it's like almost like a muscle.
Yeah.
Like, you have to train yourself.
So practice.
To, like, care about the right things.
Absolutely.
And this leads to another, like, key point.
Which is, he's all about, like, action.
Yeah, he's not just about talking. Yeah. He calls it failing forward.
Okay.
So growth comes from experimenting.
Okay.
From putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
And, like, messing up sometimes.
But I think a lot of people are so scared to, like, fail.
They get paralyzed.
Yeah.
By that fear.
Then they don't even try.
And then they end up doing nothing.
Yeah.
And Manson really addresses that head on, you know?
Yeah.
He reminds us that, like, even the most successful people fail, like, all the time.
All the time, yeah.
He uses Picasso as an example.
Okay.
Picasso created, like, thousands of works of art.
Yeah.
Right? But only a handful of them
are famous.
Are the masterpieces that we know him for.
Yeah, the ones that sell for millions of dollars.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But every single piece, even the ones that weren't, you know,
successful,
the quote-unquote failures,
right,
contributed to his growth, his development as an artist.
So it's not about avoiding failure.
Right.
It's about changing. Like,
yeah, it's about reframing it.
Your relationship with failure.
Seeing it as part of the process,
right,
as feedback, as something that helps you grow.
It's like you can't learn to ride a bike.
Right.
By reading a book about it.
You got to get on the bike and fall a few times.
Exactly.
And Manson really emphasizes this. Like, this applies to all areas of life.
Okay.
Relationships, work, creativity.
Everything.
Everything, yeah.
So it's about, like, just doing it.
Doing it, taking action.
Yeah.
Learning from your experiences.
Yeah.
Refining your approach.
Okay, so we've got choosing what we care about.
Mm-hmm.
Taking responsibility.
Yeah.
Taking action. Failing forward.
Failing forward.
What else? Any other, like, big takeaways?
There's one that's really thought-provoking.
Okay.
It might seem a little out there at first.
Okay. Hit me.
Reflecting on mortality.
Whoa. Okay, that got real quick.
Deep stuff, right?
Yeah, but how does thinking about, like, death help you live better?
Well, Manson argues that actually acknowledging the fact that our time is limited can be incredibly motivating.
Good.
He shares the story about a man who had a near-death experience.
Oh, wow.
And it completely transformed his perspective on life.
Really?
It made him realize just how much he took for granted.
Yeah, I could see that.
And it really pushed him to, like...
live more intentionally.
Yeah, to make the most of each day.
So it's not about, like, being morbid.
No.
It's about, like, using that awareness to, like, fuel your life.
Yeah, to help you prioritize.
Yeah.
To let go of the petty stuff.
The small stuff.
The small stuff, yeah.
It doesn't really matter.
And to really appreciate the present moment.
It's like, don't waste your time.
Don't waste your time.
On, like, stupid stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. And that brings us back to, like, the core message of the book, right?
Oh, yeah.
Defining what you truly give a feck about.
Yeah.
Once you have that clarity, that understanding of your values on what's truly important to you, you can start making choices that align with those values.
Yeah.
And you can start to design a life that feels more meaningful, more fulfilling, more authentically yours.
That's powerful stuff.
It is. It is.
But it also sounds kind of, like, overwhelming.
Yeah, it can be.
Like, where do you even begin?
Well, Manson actually offers some really practical tips.
Okay.
One of the simplest, but, like, one of the most effective is to ask yourself this question. What am I willing to struggle for?
Okay. What am I willing to struggle for?
What are you willing to struggle for?
I like that it's different for everybody.
It's going to be different for everyone, right?
Yeah.
But it's about identifying those things that you value enough to put in the effort, to face the challenges, to push through the discomfort.
Because the things you care about the most, I feel like, usually require some level of struggle.
Exactly. The things that are worth having usually require some work, some effort.
So it's not about avoiding struggle.
No, not at all.
It's about picking the right struggles.
Choosing your struggles, yeah.
I like that a lot.
And that leads us to another practical takeaway, right?
Okay.
Focusing on what you can control.
Okay.
So easy to get caught up in worrying about things that are completely outside of our control.
Yeah, and it makes you feel helpless.
Yeah, helpless, overwhelmed.
Totally.
Manson encourages us to shift our focus to the things we can actually influence.
Like our actions.
Our thoughts, our actions.
Yeah, our responses to things.
Exactly.
I'm starting to see how all of this, like, ties together.
Yeah.
Like, choosing what we care about helps us figure out what we're willing to struggle for.
Absolutely.
Taking responsibility helps us, like, focus on what we can control.
Gives us that power.
Yeah. And then embracing the uncertainty allows you to, like...
to step into those challenges with more courage.
With more courage, more resilience.
And resilience, yeah.
I like that a lot.
It all works together, right? It's like this framework for
Yeah.
living a more intentional life.
A more fulfilling life.
And a more fulfilling life, yeah.
This is good stuff I'm, like, already thinking about.
Awesome.
How to apply this to my own life.
I love that. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And remember, it's not about being perfect.
Yeah.
It's not about doing everything right all the time.
Right.
It's about progress.
Yeah.
Not perfection.
Totally.
It's about taking those small steps, those little, like, gradual shifts.
Yeah.
And being patient with yourself along the way.
I like that.
It's a journey.
So we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
We talked about, like, choosing our flex wisely, embracing uncertainty, taking action, contemplating our mortality.
Big stuff.
Yeah.
It's all in there.
But, like, what makes this book so effective?
Yeah.
Like, why do you think it resonated with so many people? I think it's Manson's, like, honesty. He's really blunt.
He's straight up.
Yeah, he doesn't...
no sugarcoating.
Yeah, sugarcoat anything.
Yeah.
It's, like, refreshing, you know?
Totally. He's, like, real, even when it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he calls things as he sees them.
Yeah.
And he backs it up, you know?
Yeah.
He's got the arguments, the reasoning, the examples.
Yeah, it makes you think.
Yeah, it's engaging.
And he uses, like, all sorts of examples.
Yeah, from history to, like, personal stories.
Culture.
Pop culture. Yeah, it's like he's having a conversation with you.
Yeah.
It's not just, like, a lecture, you know?
Totally.
And I think those examples, those stories, really make the book relatable.
Yeah.
It's not just theory, you know?
Yeah, it's like real life.
Real life stuff, yeah.
And I think a lot of self-help books are kind of like
vague
and like
platitudes.
Yeah, platitudes. They make you feel good.
Yeah, you're like, yeah, I should do that.
Yeah.
But then you're like, how? and Manson, he gives you the how.
Yeah, it gives you the actual, like, tools.
What tool?
To, like, put this into practice.
He gives you the exercises, the strategies.
It's like, okay, so if you're feeling stuck.
Yeah, he's like, here's what you do.
Yeah, I like that.
It's a call to action.
It's like a kick in the butt, like.
You get up, get moving.
Yeah, stop feeling sorry for yourself and, like, do something.
Do something about it, yeah.
But I'm curious, like, beyond all of the individual, like, takeaways.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a bigger message here?
I think there's definitely, like, a deeper layer to this book.
Okay.
That speaks to some of the, like, anxieties that we all feel.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like, in today's world,
Yeah.
this pressure to be happy all the time.
Right.
To be perfect.
Yeah, it's like impossible.
It's impossible, and Manson's like, hey, let's be real.
Yeah, let's chill out a little bit.
Right, let's take a more, like, balanced approach.
Yeah, I feel like this book is almost like a countercultural movement.
In a way, yeah.
Pushing back against all of that, like, positive vibes only stuff.
Right, the toxic positivity.
Yeah, it's like, it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And
life is messy.
Life is messy.
Yeah. And that's part of what makes it beautiful.
Yeah.
And interesting.
So it's not about pretending that everything's fine.
No, it's about, like, embracing the full spectrum of emotions.
Yeah.
The good, the bad, the ugly.
Yeah, all of it.
It's about being, like, authentic and vulnerable and allowing ourselves to feel the full range.
Yeah, without judgment.
Exactly.
Which I think is really hard.
It is. It's a practice.
Yeah.
But it's important.
Because it allows you to actually, like, be more resilient, right?
Absolutely.
Like, you can handle the tough stuff better.
When you can acknowledge it and allow yourself to feel it.
Yeah, this has been great.
Yeah, it's been a really interesting conversation.
We talked about a lot.
Choosing your battles, embracing uncertainty.
Even, like, thinking about, like, death.
Mortality. Yeah.
Yeah, big stuff.
Yeah, heavy stuff.
But it's all about, like, you know.
It's all part of it.
Living a good life.
Living a good life, yeah.
So, to wrap this up.
Yeah.
I would just say, you know, if you're listening out there.
Yeah.
think about that question.
What do you give a fuck about?
Yeah, what actually matters to you?
Yeah, what are your values?
What are your values?
Your relationships, your goals, your dreams.
And then once you figure that out,
yeah,
you can start making choices
that align with those values.
that align with that, yeah.
And you can start creating a life that actually feels like yours.
Yeah, that feels real. That feels authentic.
Exactly.
Awesome. I think we did a good job today.
I think so too.
This has been The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Feck.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Deep dive.
Deep dive.
We'll see you next time.